this is Michael Bosey. Welcome to my podcast, Marketing Without the Marketing. Really glad that you could join me. If you've been following along, you know that I just finished up a series, or I should say I completed Unit 1 of my series. Unit 1 was called The New Business Mindset. And it's a part of this series that's sort of, getting into counterintuitive lessons that I've learned from running my own business and from my mentors and mistakes and all that. And it's been a lot of fun so far. I'm about 6 episodes in out of what is projected to be about 15 total. But before I get to Unit 2, which is going to be called The New Marketing and Sales, I want to take just a little break from the topic to cover a couple things that have been on my mind. And as I always like to do with my students in class, I try to show things that are actually happening with live projects in the real world as examples of this stuff in practice, not just in theory, right? In practice. And it's a great opportunity to see that content marketing, or at least the way I look at it, as a part of a larger content strategy is practical and not just theoretical. So today I'd like to give you a case example, one that I know really, really well, probably the best, because I actually set this one up with my business partner, Dave Cusack. Now, the topic, which is super important and will become more and more so in modern marketing, is the concept of marketing automation. Now, this goes hand in hand with another really big topic in marketing, which is list segmentation. I'm talking about your email subscriber list here. And I intend to do an entire series on this podcast on how I teach these two really important concepts to my clients. But today, I want to show you the power of these two things together. Now, first of all, let's talk about why automation is so important. And really, when you boil it down, it allows you to do two things. One is to manage the outer edges of your marketing funnel. And two is to, speak to different sets or collections of your customers differently. Now, the first one helps you, right? Managing the outer edges of your funnel because, well, simply put, it saves you time, right? You don't have to respond as much or as often to cold leads. You want to try to sort of nurture them a little bit and wait until maybe they're a little bit more seasoned before you spend some significant time engaging. And I'm not saying, of course, that you don't want to engage at all. That's what social is for, some light engagement, build some trust or whatever. But you don't want to put a ton of time into engaging with everyone directly. You only have so much time, so much energy that you can give. So you want to, if you can, safely automate some of this process. But the second one, speaking to different sets of customers differently, this is where the magic happens, though. Because first of all, it benefits them, the customer. And if you follow this podcast, to me, it's always turning the tables around, trying to look at things from the customer viewpoint. But just to give you an example of what's possible with automation, it can actually allow you to get closer to your customer. That sounds a little counterintuitive, right? Because you're using technology, you're using automation to, try to take over some of the correspondence. It would seem like that's not what you'd be doing, right? Is getting closer to your customer. But this, in fact, does just that. The goal here is not just to offload work, right? To save you time. Of course, that's a big part of the goal, and that's fine. That's a great outcome, right? But really the goal is to actually speak to your individual customers or segments in a much more tailored way, speaking to them about the things that they care about, not that you care about. Now, of course, this benefits you as well, right? You are going to talk about things you care about. You are trying to move them towards a sale, but you're going to start to have these conversations where you're talking to them about the thing that interests them. So it's really very focused on them, but you're doing that in an automated fashion. All right, but let's get back to the case example because I want to give you the chance to see this live in action as well. So let's walk through it. All right, this starts with my online course called CreateBiz, which is this program that's about 42 video units with dozens of worksheets and checklists and all that to try to help writers and musicians and visual artists, creatives of all types, build a marketing program so that they can actually market their creative work. And I do this in partnership with my business partner, Dave Kusek, on this. And we've set up the marketing program to start running some automation, some automated campaigns. We did a soft launch just a few weeks ago. The program is up, it's live, it's taking customers, it's done, but now it's time to get to the marketing. And the goal of this, which we're going to start in just a couple weeks, is to take people from the awareness stage of the product all the way through to paying customer, if we can do that. Now, not all of those customers or those perspectives at the outer edges of the funnel, not all of them are going to make it through this journey, right? In point of fact, only a small percentage of them are even going to make it down to the point of purchase, and that's fine. And another really important reason why you need automation, because it becomes somewhat of a numbers game, right? The funnel needs to be filled, and we're not going to talk about that in this episode. But look, for any customer to start their journey with you, that always begins with awareness. And in our program, awareness, what we want to do is set up our program so that some percentage of the people who are aware of CreateBiz declare their interest, their issue, their problem. What is it that's standing in between them and success? Because that's the thing that we're trying to help them with in this course. And you think, okay, so in order to do that, Michael, what do I need, right? I got to know what they're interested in. So you have to start this whole thing by really getting to know your customers. And I'm not talking about just you as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a solo entrepreneur, whatever it is that you do, you know your customers. But I'm talking about doing some sort of research on this. For us, that was a survey. And yes, you got to start this before you set up the automation, or at least this type of automation that I'm talking about. Once you do your research and you find out what are those problems that they're contending with, right? You want to really try to understand the problems that your audience has. And the goal here is to now take all that data that you get. For us, that was a few hundred respondents. Boil that down to just a few things if you can, right? Condense it to about 3 to 4 categories of your customers' predominant issues. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that this method here is based heavily on Ryan Levesque's Ask method. He has a book on this. I left a link in the show notes for you, but he lays all this out. And what I'm talking about here is sort of an adaptation for us, tailored to us and CreateBiz, of Ryan's method, which is very, very smart. All right, now, for us, 3 common issues came up when talking to creatives. The first one was what we call recognition, which is I want to be recognized as an artist or writer, musician, whatever. I want to be recognized for my work, and I can't seem to make that happen. That was the first theme. The second one we call help, which is basically I'm seeking a publisher, an agent, a producer, and I can't get them to notice me. And the third one was a financial thing. We just call that sort of the money category, which is I'm trying to make a living from my creative work and I can't seem to connect the dots. I can't seem to make this happen for myself. I want to quit my job. I want to focus on my writing or my music or my photography or whatever, but I can't seem to do it. So in running this program, Dave and I refer to these as, in the 3 buckets, if you will: recognition, help, and money. And what we do is, to set this up, is when they're at the awareness stage, is we get them to declare their area of interest, right? What bucket do you fall into? Get them to self-select. And we do this with a simple form. Now, you can see this really simply if you go to CreateBiz.com. I left a link in the show notes for you. If you scroll down on the front page, you'll see the form there. And there's a sign-up form, or you can also see this on the subscribe form, so CreateBiz.com/subscribe. And you'll see the opt-in there. There's 3 questions, which, obviously these folks are not going to call this recognition, help, or money. We're asking questions that will get them to self-select. And notice that it's a required field. They have to choose one of these. And sure, we know it might not be exact, but we surveyed a few hundred people, and these were the issues that came up over and over again. Someone might have a different issue, but the idea here is that they cannot proceed without selecting one of these. And what that allows us to do now is to split the funnel into one of these three buckets, right? So each person is going to be put into one of the three, based on what they have told us their biggest issue is. Now, the reason that we want to do this, right? Think about this, back to the sort of, speaking to them about the thing they care about. So if they have come to us and said, hey, it's the money issue for me, right? That's what I want to learn. That's my biggest problem. That's the thing that's standing in the way. It's not the other two. Well, then we don't want to focus on recognition, right? We don't want to focus on the help portion of it. That's not what they're here for. That's not what's bugging them. So we speak to them only about the thing they care about, the money issue, right? And of course, this is the same thing for the person who selects the help bucket, right? If they're looking to get help from a publisher, a label, an agent, a producer, whatever, then we just stick to that. Now, here's the thing. With all three of these different buckets that we put them in, we know that with CreateBiz, we have an answer for them. And the logical answer, and this won't surprise you to hear me say this, is to build an audience, right? Recognition, by definition, you've got attention now, right? Because you've got an audience. To get help from a publisher, agent, producer, or whatever, you will now be taken seriously if you have an audience. And the money issue, obviously, if you've got a large audience, you can convert some of that attention, some of that trust into revenue. This is the one answer. And of course, this course that's 42 units helps really dig into the strategy, the method, and all of that so that they can do that. So they can do the most difficult part, which is to build an audience around their creative work. But even though the ultimate answer is the same, right, to build an audience, their reasons for doing it are different. And if we want to sell, we have to speak to them in their own language. Focus not on the thing that's important to me and Dave, my biz partner, but what's important to them instead. So let's lead them to that path. And of course, we're not going to be selling. We're going to start by teaching. So what we want to do is set up a nurture sequence to provide enough value to them that we build up and collect some trust in this audience. And it looks a little bit like this. So let me walk through this. First of all, on that form, which if you've seen it already, great, they opt in and select one of the three. Remember, this is a required field. Opt-in is a really important point in the customer journey. Opt-in is an opportunity, right? Think about what this says. The customer is telling you, okay, you say you can give me what I want to solve my issue. Prove it then. And my starting posture when I'm in this position is, look, I don't believe you. Let me see you prove it. And I'm giving you a chance to do that by opting in. I'm listening. It's your move now. Now think about that. When someone comes to me with that position, I better come through on that then, right? So to me, the only way to prove it is not to sell. It's to teach. Show them that, number one, I am the one to help them with this, and of course, Dave, and that this course, is the means to do it. All right, so let's look at the money track, the folks who are saying, I want to earn money from my creative work. Now, the first thing that's going to happen is once they've selected that, and this is double opt-in, right? So it's nice and safe where they've selected it, get an email. Are you sure you want to sign up for this? Yes, I do. Here we go. Now they're on my list. And now, because they've self-selected into one of these three buckets, it triggers an automation sequence. And the first thing that they're going to get is a video, right? It's an email that has a link to a video that is only about their issue. We're only going to talk about how they make money from their creative work. Forget the other things. We're going to focus on that. It's going to say thank you to them for signing up and let them know that they're going to get next a series of email lessons that dig deeper into this particular issue. Now, of course, we got to have all that stuff written and ready to go, all these different email lessons, which we do. Now, while, of course, our end goal here is to sell the course, the focus here is that these are lessons. It's supposed to be teaching. You've got to respect your customer to make the decision on her own whether or not she's going to buy or not. So we're not trying to be pushy here. We're trying to teach, and you should do the same thing. Teaching is going to involve illuminating why they're struggling with this issue and how the customer can start fixing this issue today, whether or not the customer buys the course from us or buys your product or whatever, right? How can you help your customer start fixing his or her problem right now? So in other words, start teaching, start helping, and this is going to build trust. And then at the end of the sequence, you're going to be the logical sort of next step, right? Where it's like, okay, I know I have this problem. I know these issues. These folks have helped me so far try to think about this differently or given me some things to apply or whatever. And you're in a really good position at that point, probably the best that you'll be, where someone says, all right, look, I want to solve this issue. You guys have said you can do this. You seem to have come through on this. You seem to have proven it to me. So let's go. Now, of course, I know what you're thinking here, right? There have to be other sequences built for the other tracks. And yes, this is a ton of content, but here's the thing about automation. You create it once and it runs automatically with every sign up. Every time someone hits one of those 3 buttons and opts into the list, it's going to trigger this sequence. So think of the power of that. Think if you had to do this one by one, selling hand to hand. No. These folks are expressing a small interest up front, and all you're doing is saying to them, here, let's see if this is truly right for you. Let's teach you the things that you can do to help solve your issue, and if I've done enough of that, and you trust me enough, then maybe you'll purchase it at the very end of it. Now, once they get to the end of the sequence, we do a couple things, which is, one, now we make our pitch. And we promise to them, if they sign up, that they'll get something. We call this a lead magnet, which for us will be this guide to content marketing that is, again, 3 different versions that really dig into how to solve this issue, but in a deeper way than the email lessons. Right? So now it's like, here, we've taught you a little bit about this. If you sign up now, we're going to give you something that really, really leans into that and goes a little bit deeper. And these, obviously, here it is, more content again with these 3 different guides. But the other thing is that we want to bring all 3 tracks back into one track and make the final pitch for the course. And here's the thing. At this point, we've provided a lot of value to the person who's considering purchasing from us now. We've kind of, hopefully, earned the right to sell now. The prospect, theoretically, trusts us enough that she'll hear us out on our pitch. That's fair, right? You've provided me a lot of value. Okay, I trust you a little bit now. Let's hear it. And that's pretty much how it works. Pretty cool, right? Now, look, this is a condensed version of this strategy, and it definitely sticks to the top level here, right? I'm just trying to show you sort of a little bit of behind the scenes on how I think about this in terms of marketing automation. And yes, I know it can seem scary that it's a lot of work, but when you're building this on your own, you want to sort of start small. Like, you may not have something as complex built from the start, and that's fine. And like I said, I intend to get really deeply into how to actually do list segmentation and set up some email automation. I'm going to do this in a series on this podcast. So if you want me to notify you about when that's ready, just subscribe to this podcast in the show notes or directly at controlmousemedia.com/subscribe. And here's the thing. On my list, you get to choose what content you want and how often. You get to set your own frequency as it should be. Or if you like, you can see this case example unfold in real time. If you just sign up at CreateBiz, right? Like I said, on the front page, where you can see the form at CreateBiz.com, or on our sign-up form, which is CreateBiz.com/subscribe. If you go there directly, you'll see the opt-ins that are available to you, which is kind of cool. Or if you're looking for a discount and are considering purchasing the course, go to CreateBiz.com/MWM, where That's where I offer special discounts for listeners of this podcast like you. Now, the sequences are being built right now and will begin in just a few weeks. And, I hope that seeing this whole thing, or at least this, pulling back the curtain a little bit, hope that it helps you think about your own strategy. And I'll definitely look forward to teaching you more about it in the future, because not only is this really cool, but I can say with a great deal of certainty, expect this to become almost a requirement for marketing programs of any size in the future. It doesn't matter, large, medium, small, whatever. You're really going to have to learn this. So I'll look forward to that. Okay, here's the thing. I'll be off next week. Next week is the July 4th holiday. Also, it's my birthday on the 3rd, so I think I'll take the week off. But I'll be back on July 10th. So have a safe and happy July 4th holiday weekend, and I'll see you when I get back. Thanks for listening.